8 hours until I move house, and I'm doing a video for Pokemon of the Week. Very much normal, I know. It's how much effort I'm putting in to make sure a video comes out for you every single week. Hi, I'm Daniel, Oniongrave64, or Civil Onion based upon how you know me. And this week is a Pokemon that I actually name dropped last week, not knowing what Pokemon was going to be. Ampharos, from number 181 in the Pokedex, and like last week, we've got another electric type, and another one that's in the NU tier. So Ampharos, let's speak first of all and say how it's different to the previous week's Pokemon, Raichu. We'll start with its base stats. Ampharos is one of the bulkiest electric types going, which to be fair isn't saying very much, but nonetheless Ampharos' base stats are pretty good for considering, you know, that electric only has the one type weakness, and that is to ground. Base 90 HP is pretty good, especially because its base special defense is exactly the same. Its defense at 75 is very much average. However, Pokemon are not that fond to do contact moves on Ampharos because of its ability static. You never see Plus. Plus is an ability where, in a doubles battle, the Pokemon with you, if it had the ability minus, your special attack would go up by one stage. But because this is not going to be on about double battles, because the competitive battles are almost always single battles, Plus never gets used, and you will never ever see it in a single battle unless someone is an idiot. Base special attack of 115 means no matter what type of set you go with Ampharos, you're going to hit reasonably hard. You may have noticed the elephant in the room though. It's an incredibly slow electric type, and electric types are regarded generally as being very frail and very quick. Ampharos is neither of these things. As a result, there are a lot of sets you can run with it, and I'm going to go through 3 of them. I could have gone through half a dozen, and something that got mentioned in a comment last week was about whether I use Smogon sets. Smogon has been down the entire week. It's been having DDoS problems from what I'm aware of. So as a result, every set I have come up with here are absolutely no way linked to Smogon. Just this is a way, I suppose, of me showing that I am not copying and pasting straight from that website. That would be very crude and very pointless. So let's get on with the first set. And the first set is trying to get around Ampharos' pretty dire speed, or lack of speed. And what you do is use agility on the first turn. That doubles your speed. And with a maximum speed investment and a timid nature, you're outspeeding the vast majority of things. However, what you are not outspeeding most of the time are Choice Scarf users, so be very, very careful with that. To go with your agility, Thunderbolt is a standard move. Obviously, it's a very powerful, very accurate stab move. To go alongside this, you have the same issue as last week. Which hidden power do I go for? Now, Ampharos has Power Gem in its arsenal, which is a rock type move. It's got base power 70 and no added effect, so it's almost the equivalent of having hidden power rock. That's something Raichu in the previous week did not have, so your hidden power choice can complement a rock type filler move. However, just like with Raichu last week, hidden power ice is definitely the more common of the two, and if you pick hidden power grass, most people will run signal beam alongside that. Focus Blast, very high power move, very high risk move, especially on simulators where hacks tends to be overrepresented. So a 70% accuracy does not really reflect accurately as 70% on Pokemon Online, for example. It tends to be a lot less accurate than that. Hidden power IVs there, the light blue is ice and green is for grass, as you would expect. Item wise, this is a perfect set for the Expert Belt. And if you've watched previous Pokemon of the Week episodes, you'll know that I have a big passion for the Expert Belt. 20% power bonus if the move hits super effectively with no real recoil damage not only is very useful in itself, but it's also a way of trying to bluff that you might have a different item. Obviously when you have a life orb and you hit something, you lose health, and it's a big giveaway what the item is. Expert Belt is a much more difficult item to detect. Do bear in mind though that Expert Belt cannot bluff to be a choice item if you're using agility immediately, so it can't pretend to be one of those. EV wise, maximising the special attack alongside your speed because you want to hit as hard as you can. Ampharos can usually take one hit before it dies. Not many earthquakes can it take, but it can usually take vast majority of other moves. And like I said, things are not very willing to, for example, Mach Punch Ampharos because of its ability static. which is a 30% chance of paralysing the opponent if it's hit by a contact move. Not all physical moves are contact, some special moves like Grass Knot are contact moves, but generally speaking, priority punching moves are contact moves. So people don't really like to do that to Ampharos. Ampharos does also resist Bullet Punch, which is quite handy. Putting the notes here, if you're using this in NU, the tier that it is actually in, Timid is the best one. Now this is quite weird, because usually what you would say is you want to be quicker in the higher tiers. The reason I say this is because when you get into RU, UU, and if you're brave enough, overused tiers, even when you're timid, you're still going to be outsped by a lot of things. So it might be better to just go for modest and hit as hard as you can. Second note, the Hidden Power Grass is more common in lower tiers. Hidden Power Ice hits dragons, for example, and there aren't many of those in the lower tiers. You might see the odd Altaria, but that's about it. So as a result, Hidden Power Grass is a much better choice the lower the tier you are in. So let's go on to the second set. This is a set that I have used a lot. I've used a lot of varieties of this set because I like to use Ampharos to be bulky, because it's an electric type that's bulky, that is rare. And it gets the access to Heal Bell, which heals up the entire team that you are on. Completely heals all status effects that they may be afflicted with. So if something is burned, something else is put to sleep, something else might be paralysed, all of that gets wiped out in one clean swoop. However, there are a lot of options with this set, so let me run through them briefly. Your choice of attacking move. Thunderbolt is consistent, but Volt Switch does allow you to get momentum. The problem if you use Volt Switch is that it might be your only attacking move, and obviously there are quite big negative connotations to only have one attack and it be a switch out move, because obviously you can't stay in if you get taunted. Whether you attack or whether you switch, you'll have to switch out anyway. So that's one thing to be very wary of. The second thing to be very wary of is that if you use Volt Switch, the final move, you might want to pick Hidden Power Ground. Now, you don't see Hidden Power Ground that often. And the reason you see it on this set is because if you run Thunder Wave as your status afflicting move, which is in the third slot, electric types will be completely and utterly immune to everything you can do, and Hidden Power Ground hits them as hard as you physically can. Lantern, for example, is a Pokemon, usually it's not in NU, it has to be said, it's way higher than that. But Lantern is a Pokemon that would completely stop you dead if you ran Thunderbolt or Volt Switch alongside Thunder Wave and didn't run Hidden Power Ground, because you'd be literally unable to do anything to it. That's why some people prefer to use Toxic instead of Thunder Wave. It really does depend on what your team needs. I can't fully advise you on this, but Toxic is better if you're trying to outstall the opposition, and Thunder Wave is better if you have a sweeper that is on a marginal speed. It is a speed that could quite get over, could quite not, depends on what team you're facing. Thunder Wave completely takes that variable out, so that's why that's very popular. Final move though, I did say Hidden Power Ground is an option. I've obviously put the IVs for you there in the light brown colour. This is a perfect chance to put a screen in as well. I may not have put Light Clay as a potential item there because you really need the HP recovery, because the big flaw with this set and Ampharos in general is that it does not have a reliable recovery move for its HP, which is why Wish support is incredibly useful indeed, in the same way it is with Lantern. This runs in a very similar way in fact to special bulky Lantern sets. But obviously Ampharos has no weakness to grass, but on the flip side you can't absorb electric type moves, so swings and roundabouts on that one. There is one saving grace for Ampharos though. Static does mean that, like I said, certain moves, certain contact moves, you're not that likely to be hit by. But, and this is a big but, the most efficient way to distribute your stats is to go with a calm nature and raise your special defense as much as possible along with your health. Obviously though, static would indicate you want to go bold and maximise your physical defense. I personally go for the former, but the latter does make logical sense as well. Just bear in mind that Ampharos only has a base 75 physical defense, and therefore maximising it is still not enormous, it's just pretty good. And as the metagame has been getting more and more aggressive over time, it doesn't take hits quite as well as you'd hope, but then you could say that for almost every single Pokemon, so do take it with quite a big pinch of salt. So finally, we get onto the third set, and this is the set where people assume when you're using Ampharos that you're going to go very bulky, or you're going to use agility. And if you're going to use the agility set, you give away you're using it after turn 1 because you obviously use agility first. You can make use of this piece of information by throwing a choice specs on and just hitting everything as hard as you can. Because Ampharos gets Volt Switch, this set is very much a set you can pull off because you can get momentum and not have to switch out on the second turn. You can switch out while you're attacking, it's very useful. It's not quite as reliable as U-turn because obviously ground types and things with Volt Absorb can be completely nullify the power of Volt Switch, but nevertheless it is quite a handy move for a set that has a choice specs on it. You'll normally run Thunderbolt anyway alongside it. I know that looks like redundant for type coverage, it's the same type move, but sometimes you won't want to switch out, and Thunderbolt does hit with a base 25 before stab higher than Volt Switch. And when you're using a choice spec set, obviously more power is more, so that's why that's there. Hidden power option, I've already discussed the ice versus grass situation, so I won't bore you to death with that one. So the final move, your choice can be Power Gem, it can be Signal Beam, or it can be a Focus Blast. Obviously Focus Blast, even without stab, hits very, very hard with this set. However, if you miss, you're going to have to pretty much always switch out having done nothing. And like I said, if you use it on simulators, Focus Blast misses a hilarious, for the opponent that is, number of times. So probably not the best choice, but it is quite arguably the best out of the three for type coverage. Debatable, I would argue, for sure, because Electric is one of the few types that is neutral towards steel types. You know that steel resists so many types. Weak to 3, but it resists double figure numbers of types. So Focus Blast isn't quite as useful as you would anticipate. There is one reason that I put the 4 EVs into speed though, and the reason is simple. Base 55 Pokemon in their speed stats generally don't try and improve their speed, unless they're going for a speed boosting set. So whether it can learn Rock Polish or Agility, for example. Using the 4 EVs to put them in speed usually means you'll dodge speed ties with what are normally very slow, very powerful Pokemon. Machamp, for example, is another Pokemon in the base 55 speed department, and you would much rather go first against that Pokemon. As a result, that one number difference can make all the difference. Maximising your special attack is obvious, and maximising your HP. There's really no point investing fully in speed if you're not going for the agility set with Ampharos, because you still won't be able to outspeed anything of note. So I would recommend not really doing that at all, and instead making your Ampharos bulkier so you can potentially make a mistake on your prediction and not die for it, and you'll get 2 bites at the cherry rather than the regular 1. With a Choice Scarf, you may be wondering why I've not done a Choice Scarf set. Base 55 speed with a Choice Scarf doesn't cut the mustard. You're still slower than a lot of Pokemon even without a Choice Scarf, and obviously you are slower than now on everything else that uses a Choice Scarf as well. So I wouldn't recommend it. I'd recommend going for the maximum power, hence the modest nature, not the timid one. I hope you found this interesting. Leave feedback as always. Thank you very much. Peace out, and talk to you all next week.